Hello, everyone. It's Tansel here, four-time Australian memory champion, and today we'll be running through how to remember names. And yeah, just a few people in today, so that's good. And we'll be able to get started. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some strategies in this session, and we're going to look at some, main challenges of remembering names, but also look at the techniques as well, because I think once you know some techniques, then you can go on and remember everyone's names, right? So that's the whole idea behind this meeting. There is a few people, so we'll probably end up finishing a lot sooner as well. But if we do stretch it out, that'll be great because we'll be able to then make the most of our time together as well. So the reason why I'm doing these sessions is that there's a lot of people that just don't know how to remember names. And I want to be able to make it accessible for everyone. Everyone should know these core skills. And, these aren't skills that only the best people know. These are skills that, just everyday people like you and me should know. So we can connect with people a lot better. It's not just about remembering a name, it's everything else from that. So let's look into that as well. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about the benefits and all that sort of stuff. I want to get straight into the techniques because the more we can play around with the techniques with remembering names, the better. And it's also better for our viewers as well, because this is also going up on my YouTube channel, as you may or may not know, as well as other social media platforms. So we'll sort of get started. So, all right, now I've got a few people. That's good. Hi, Patricia, Rasul, Shane, Ola Dunjoya. Hopefully, I've said that correctly. But yeah, thanks for being on and thanks for watching as well. It's amazing to have your time because you could be doing other things, but you've decided to be here with us today. So thank you so much for that. So let's get stuck into it. Now, I am just before I get into it, right? I am the worst at chat boxes, right? So yeah, I'll just quickly glance at it, but my focus is on actually just delivering this masterclass, so to speak. So I might miss a few comments here and there, so I do apologize if I do miss your comment. But know that I am working like crazy just to get this out to you. So hopefully you can make the most of it. So let's get into it. Now, I am going to share my screen because when I do memory training, I use a couple of websites. One website is my own, all right, and I have downloads in there for random names, right? So that's one. I also use a website called Memory League, right? So there's a lot of people that know about Memory League and a lot of people that don't. And Memory League is a website where you can just train your memory. So whether it's not just random names and faces, but numbers, playing cards, all that sort of stuff. So I want to show you that. Now, for our people that are watching new that don't know me, just a very quick introduction. I don't want to sort of blow my own trumpet or anything like that. I'm a four-time Australian memory champion, international best-selling author, and well known for memorizing 2 Yellow Pages phone books in just 24 days. So I've had a few accomplishments in memory, and I want to share that with you so that you don't have to struggle so much, with your memory. That's the reason why I'm here, I guess, and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So hopefully you can take, whatever you can out of these skills. I started off as a skeptic, so I actually didn't believe one could improve their memory, let alone names. I was terrible at remembering people's names. So for me to be giving this masterclass is a massive change. But I have been doing this for over 22 years. So I've built up the skill, and hopefully you can build up the skill as well. It's not going to be overnight. It does take effort, but once you know how to utilize and train for that skill, you'll be able to accomplish it. Not a problem. And I'm always here to help you guys as well. So, whenever you need to reach out, you can contact me through my website, www.tanselali.com. I'll put it on the screen, all that sort of stuff. So let's get started. I am going to share my screen. I'll share Memory League first. So hopefully you can all see that here. So memoryleague.com, I'm not an affiliate or anything with these guys. I just train on here, like most other people. And I'm going to click on random names to train. So there is a train section. You can compete against other people in the world as well, right? If you so wanted to, go for it. But I use it mostly for training, all right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do just run you through, right, a scenario of remembering a name. So I'll click on start and we'll see what happens. And I know Patricia knows what I'm doing, but let's see. So we've got Gene. Now, the first technique I'm going to go through, I'll smash these out quickly because practice is the most important, right? Is association. That's how we remember names, by association. Now, the difficult part is doing the associations very quickly, right? That's where the challenge lies in remembering a name. Whereas if you had all the time in a world with the person, right, like I'm staring at Gene now, I could picture that person wearing jeans, right? Now they're wearing jeans. I could put an S at the end, not a problem. It's going to trigger the word jean for me. Now, I can't just picture this person wearing jeans because it's not a really strong association. So in order to remember a name, we need to make an image, like I said, jeans, but now we have to build the story up from there. So this person is wearing jeans. You can't see it, right? It's not even visual. So we have to make up something that is probably a bit more ridiculous. Maybe she's wearing jeans, brown jeans around her neck. I'm saying her because I think it might look like a her, but could be a him. Yeah. So him or her wearing jeans, brown jeans around their neck. And, they're just really cool because they're wearing jeans around their neck. So see what I did there? Instead of taking something that's, stock standard, wearing jeans on your, feet, legs, lower body, I'm taking it so that she's wearing it around or he's wearing it around his neck, right? So I've made the story up. I can visualize it and I can see what's going on here. And, there's almost a smug look on this person's face, like I'm too cool for school. I've got my jeans around my neck, right? Now, as you can see, that took quite a bit of time for me to create. So if you're meeting someone very quickly, you don't have that luxury, right? I'm going to go through speed a little bit later on as well, but I'll go through just the basic techniques first so you can understand. Feel free to take notes as you're going along. Obviously, I can't see you, right? But if you've got a pen and paper handy or if you've got your computer, just open up another window and just start typing notes because something like this, you don't want to just hear out. You want to take some notes and then practice those skills. Practice is obviously the most important skill to take out of here, not the techniques themselves, right? So next person, Dorothy. Now, I immediately think of, was it Alice in Wonderland, Dorothy, right? So she's clicking her heels together. She looks like a bit of a princess, right? I'm sorry, Dorothy, if that's you there, but I'm just going by association again. So the first one, Gene, was I come up with an image for something around that person's name. Now, obviously, that person's going to be walking around without that. So then we go, how do you remember the name? Right. So I've got the look, I've got the glasses, I've got everything else that's connected, right, with the genes. Here, I'm connecting something totally imaginary, right? So imaginary meaning Dorothy, Alice in Wonderland. So I have to visualize her in Wonderland, right? Maybe she's chasing the rabbit, all that sort of stuff. So that's an association by like something, that like a pair of jeans. And this is association by, again, like a fairy tale or book it is actually. So yeah, so I've got Dorothy. Next person, Sue. Now, this is really cool, this example, because Sue, you don't have to use the word Sue. You can use the word sue as in you sued someone, right? She looks like she sued someone, by the way. um, she's suing someone for what? Copying her signature look, right? That could be her signature look. Sue's got a signature look, and she's suing someone because she does not want that person, being as big as her because she's an influencer. Sue's an influencer, right? So I'm totally making all this up. And that's a cool thing is when you're remembering a name, you can play around and have some fun, right? So we got Sue. She's suing someone. So now we're using association to something that we know that's not tangible, right? That's connected to, and it has to be connected to an emotion, right? When you sue someone, what's happening? She's angry, right? And we can feel that anger. So if we connect with that anger, now we're matching that response, and that's what helps us to remember emotion. Let's go to the next person, Jim, right? Again, same sort of association here. I don't have to use the word gym. I can use like a gymnasium gym, right? We shorten gym. And this dude here, he loves going to the gym, right? Could see him maybe doing some bench presses. He looks like a cardio guy. So maybe he's running on the treadmill, right? He's at the gym and he's happy. Look at him, can't wipe the smile off his face. He's at the gym, right? Brian, right? What can we do for Brian? Now, I use this a lot, actually, this skill, and it's people that you know, right? So far we've used associations to books, to abstract sort of concepts like suing, physical objects like jeans. What we can do now is look at, do we know a Brian, right? I know a Brian, right? I went to school with a Brian, so I've got a picture of them. So now what I could do is I can connect this Brian to my school friend Brian. So maybe he's playing sport with Brian, or maybe he's getting into a punch on with Brian, right? The reason why I make dramatic associations is your brain will pick it up. If I just say Brian said hello to the other Brian, that's boring as anything. And to be honest, you'll probably go, well, who was he saying hi to? I don't get it, right? Or my friend Brian, he said hi to him and this guy looked away. And then they started punching on, right? He's got the look away face. He's like, dude, do you see where I'm getting at? So the more we can play around with their features, emotions, what you get as perceptions from people for the abstract name, because the name is abstract. It doesn't make sense, right? That's why we have to create images, right? The more we do that, the easier it is to remember, right? You can also scramble the name Brian up. You can say brain. That's a cool one as well. And there's been many streets that I've, gone past and said, okay, instead of Bryan Street, it's Brain Street. And then I've got confused with actual Brain Street. That's pretty funny. But you can do that as well. So if you do meet a Brian, picture them with a massive brain or sticking out of their forehead, right? I know for some people that could be morbid, but again, that's what sticks in the memory. Right? James, right? My old drummer in my band was James, right? He looked nothing like him. It was only 15 when we first started. So, I was 18 touring the country with 15-year-olds, but that's how we were back in the day. And this guy, I can just picture him playing the drums, and drummers tend to be a bit cocky. He looks a bit cocky as well. So someone I know, right? Associate. So that's a really cool example. Another example you can use, and this works, I use this a lot, by the way, this works really well, is using a location as an association. So what does that mean? So James, we used to practice at his place, right? In the bungalow, right? Little, backyard thing. So I can picture, right, this guy playing drums in the bungalow, right? Another example would be if you met an Elizabeth, right? You can picture Queen Elizabeth. She's passed away, obviously now, but picture Queen Elizabeth. But where did she live? Buckingham Palace. So if you meet another Elizabeth, you can picture them at Buckingham Palace, right? What does that look like? If you know what it looks like, you know what it looks like. If you don't use the location, right? Don't try and force yourself to use it. Only use the location if you know, right? If you meet a Tansel, right? Well, you might picture them doing a YouTube video, right? If you only see me on YouTube, or if you know me in real life, you know where I work, you can picture them at my work. Yeah. Randy. Well, I can say this guy was pretty randy, but yeah, I don't want to get into that because kids love watching my shows. So I used to think of I used to watch wrestling back in the day, and there was Macho Man Randy Savage, right? So I'm again association to someone I know, not personally, but someone I've heard of, I've seen, could be a celebrity, right? Macho Man Randy Savage. So now that I've got that image, then I make the story. I don't try and do it all at once because it get a bit difficult, right? Randy Savage. So what's this guy doing? He's in the ring. He's actually jumping off the top ropes. He's screaming and yelling. I can imagine the visuals that he's creating. He looks so nonplussed. So it's a little bit challenging, but if you use your visual capabilities, you do that. Now, and we'll look at after this as well. How can you train your visual capabilities, right? Because I've been doing this for, like I said, over 20 years. I can instantly make those connections. But for someone starting out new, it's going to take some time. Like by the time you think of Randy, what can I do for Randy? Right? That alone is time thinking. So the trick is how can you train your brain to get rid of the thinking, come up with the thing to associate, and then make the story, right? That's all through practice. And the beauty of Memory League is that you can train for this speed and level up each time. So gamification of memory training that's the best thing ever. Couple more. Beverly, right? She lives in Beverly Hills, right? I can say that. So she's got no E, but I just mentally note that. That's how I remember spelling mistakes for me. But other people find, a bit more challenging. But I don't want to get into spelling at the moment. I just want to get into she's from Beverly Hills and she loves it there, right? I can picture that, what she's doing in Beverly Hills. Maybe she's cruising around. I don't know, right? So Beverly Hills, Lynette, right? These are getting trickier, but you can also break up the name, right? This is a really cool one. Now, I use this a lot for names that don't make any sense for me. So Lynette, I can break it up as in line. So Lynn, line, same sort of thing. And I can say net, like as in a football net, soccer net, whatever you want to call it, or just a fishing net in general. So now I've got a line and a net. So she's got a fishing line and it catches it in a net. So she's going fishing with the fishing line. She drags in a net, right? And she's like, what? Girl, what? That's what she's saying. And you can see she's, looking fairly clueless. But again, I'm just taking advantage of this, right? In real life, you're going to meet people, they're not going to be static like that. Right? You're going to make up other associations, but this is how I break up the name. You can break it up in 2, 3, 4, 5. I used to work with a guy named Vijay Ranganamachandran, right? You break that up into 4 or 5 different parts. Vijay, he's a DJ, Arangan, like a orangutan, right? Rama, as in, could be drama, and Chandran. In Australian dialect, English, chandering means vomiting, right? So imagine, a DJ, orangutan jumps on this DJ at a nightclub, causes all this drama, everyone starts vomiting, chundering, right? That's how you remember Vijay Ranganamachandran. Otherwise, if you're from that nationality, it's probably easy as anything to remember because there's a meaning behind it, right? So anyway, Lynette. Final one, Adrian. Now, again, instantly I get the Rocky coming into my head with, Rocky Balboa screaming out, Adrian, in the movie. So that's what I remember. And he looks like a referee. So referees wear black and white. So maybe he's telling Rocky to shut up, stop yelling out Adrian. That's my name. I don't want you to yell out my name. Right. And he's fairly serious. Look at him, serious dude. So again, association to someone, a movie. Again, it doesn't have to be people in a movie. It could be scenes. Most of the time, movie scenes are with people, but it could be an action shot or something like that, right? I've also got a friend named Adrian, right? There's also can you break that apart? Advertising, whatever. So you can use whatever you want. You could even use if worst case scenario, you can just take the first letter and just make some word out of it. But again, that's probably the least effective way, right? So let's get to recalling these now and see if you can recall them, right? And obviously, if I type it in, you'll recall, but I want you guys to just briefly have a look, right? And see, what's this lady's name, right? Try and remember the association that I came up for her. Why was she looking sort of, right? I'll give you a few seconds for each one. Then we'll go with this dude looking a little bit smug, right? Why was he a bit cocky, right? If you remember the story is going to trigger the name for you. And that's really the way to measure effectiveness. If you can't remember the name, it means the story was not strong enough, right? So if you're looking through these names and going, oh, what was their name? What was their name? Your story was somehow not connected, right? Let's go with this dude. You know, he loves something. What does he enjoy doing? Right? He's got, exercise jacket. Oop, I think I said a bit too much there. Let's go to this young lady, right? What was she doing? Give you a few seconds. Why not? And this dude is looking sideways for a reason. What happens when he looks sideways? Right? Then we got her. I'm not going to say anything about her. You guys can try and figure it out. This is a masterclass after all. It's an interactive exercise. So, you know, go through it in your own mind, see if you can remember the stories, and eventually recall the name. So this was the first person that we had. So you can see they've got certain features, they've got certain things around their neck. Well, what could it be? And like I said, you're not going to really try and remember, clothing for people, because if that clothing doesn't exist and you see them, now your association is gone. So you have to really create visuals for the person, the image that you create. And, there are people out there that find it difficult to create images of people. They might be good with names, but they can't create the imagery. This is where you can delve deeper as well. You can say, okay, you have brown hair, sort of orangey glasses, shortish lips. The more you describe and get into detail, the more that's going to help you remember as well. So that's another way of helping you to remember an actual picture by stating and saying out, what this person's got involved, maybe some dimples in there. Let's get to this dude, right? He's about to knock me out. Oops, there's another one giveaway for you. But you can see he's got a beautiful mustache, So you can see, okay, what story have I got for this guy? Or is he part of some grand scheme story, bigger story? Right? This guy was feeling a bit, I don't want to say, I've got kids watching, right? But see if you can remember. This was a tricky one. If they've got a face just like that, right? It's like, well, what emotion? How can I make them play out something? It is challenging. So it's actually easier probably to meet people in real life, because now you can play with their emotions, the tone of their voice, all that sort of stuff. But something like this, it's like, dude, give me something. Come on. And finally, this lady, she was an influencer, I'll give you that. And but she's like, hang on, you can't steal my whatever. Right. So hopefully you've got all of that. I'm just going to click finish so you can see the results. Right. I could have recalled them, but I just want you to see obviously all of them and the stories that we made. So I made a line and a net for her. So she was fishing. James was my drummer. Jim loved going to the gym. Beverly Hills, Brian, Brain, or he had a fight with my friend Brian because he was looking sideways at him. Dorothy was clicking her heels. Jean was wearing his jeans, her. Adrian was in a boxing match, or he's a referee in Rocky. Randy was a bit Randy, but Macho Man Randy Savage. And Sue was suing for, someone copying her look, right? That's why she's looking a bit angry. So that's a style of memorization. Now, a lot of questions around that is, well, it takes me so long to make up the story. Well, yeah, that's where you're going to start, right? But know that once you do this a number of times, you're going to get quicker. You're going to get a lot better. So what I'm going to do is I am going to challenge you guys, right? From what you've just learned now, this goes for everyone in the session plus everyone watching. I'm going to challenge you guys, and I'm going to go into custom mode. I'm going to do 20 names, right? 20 names. And I'm going to go through a few seconds for each one, right? So you've got only a few seconds to make up whatever association you come up with for the name, right? Make up the story in the hope that you're going to remember the name. So usually what other trainers will do is make life a little bit easier so you do get some success. But the way that I've achieved success is always the hard way and always through failure. So I'm going to make it hard for you guys, because that is my way, right? So I'm going to give you a few seconds. So get into the zone, put your concentration hat on, all of that stuff, get the kids away, drink your last sip of tea, coffee, whatever it is, and we're going to get into memorization mode, right? Everyone's ready? Okay, here we go. I'm going to breeze through them. Chris. Wonder if that person looks like a Hugh. Maybe not. It's funny, somehow some people look like their name, and some people, obviously, from the past person, does not look like it. Oh no, Jen's got an arm missing. I don't know if I should commentate or just let you guys, memorize, but I do love to talk. That's why I'm here. So, and I shall talk. We've got Steely Dan. Bill. So a lot of ideas already coming in my head for Bill, but I shall let it go because you guys are memorizing. See, I use sort of any pose or anything like that to my advantage as well. So see if you can do that. Antonio. He could be Italian, but another one with a brilliant moustache. Benjamin. So the difficulty that I used to have was stock standard, like average Western names. That was always difficult for me. I don't know why. Helen. See, my mother-in-law's name's Helen, but she doesn't look like her. Josh. He could be joshing around. He does not josh around, I can tell you that. Christina, I wonder what background they had for her. They totally blurred it out. Quite curious now. Give you a few more seconds for Christina. We're getting into some abstract photography now, but I'm loving the photos. Gillian. There's also Gillian with a G as well, I've noticed, like Gillian Anderson. Not that you want to associate to her. Is that Elisa? Elisa? I don't know. Eliza, like Mount Eliza. Jenny, if you're sweating at this point, good. I'm glad. John, I do know a John. Good guy. Great guy. Nancy. Fancy Nancy. Oops, I did a rhyme. See if you can remember the rhyme. Like, I might as well give you one, right? Rob. See, if you know a Rob, great. If you don't know a Rob, you can actually use the word Rob. Richie. Good guy, Richie. And finally, we have Little Willie. Yeah, I totally ran into that one. Okay. Fun, fun. So I am going to click finish. Yay. So now, obviously in your own time, see if you can remember all these people. And if you want, you can, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can pause the video and write the names down. But for the people in the masterclass, I'll give you a bit of time as well. So you can go ahead and go through your stories in your head and try and recall. And I'll go through each person, after every few seconds, just so you can. You don't have to squint at your screens to see the picture. Really fun group of people today. Look at that. A lot of happy faces and a lot of nonplussed faces I can see. At least this guy's happy, right? He's happy for something. This guy he looks dangerous. Like I do remember this person because I actually didn't memorize the names, funny enough. But I was going through this person in my mind, thinking, what on earth is that name doing for this person? But we cannot discriminate, right? Obviously, primacy and recency, you're going to remember the most recent. Even if you didn't use a technique, you'll probably still get this person as well. I actually do remember this person, made an association with. If she's watching, I don't mean any harm by that. It's good to see smiling faces. I like smiling faces. The ones that don't smile, it's like, man, you can make up some crazy associations for them. But you don't generally meet them looking like this at you, do you? Or unless you work in that environment that people are like this all the time, then yeah, you might get good at remembering the name. But I generally, this is how I see people. I must be very lucky, very fortunate to live in places where people smile. This guy's is he smiling? Fine. Yeah, no, maybe not. He's about to. Like if I cracked a joke, he'd smile. I'll make him smile. No problem. Yeah, she's too artistic for me. Um, but it's a really awesome photo, actually. There you go. She's looking dead straight at you. So that's a good sign as well, because when people look dead straight at you, it's like, what's going on? It's great to get emotion into your stories because as soon as you get emotion, bang, you can get retrieval. And she's almost, I'd say, for me personally, this is how I see it. She was like dead straight into your eyes, like, I'm going to get you, sucker. And this one is like, I don't care. I don't care what you do. You remember my name? Who cares? I don't care if you remember my name. That's what she's saying to me, right? I can make this up. The more I play around and have some fun, the better. If I see her in real life, I'm not going to pretend that that's what's happening, right? This is just what I can create in my head to remember the names. Right, here you go. Lovely smile, looking away. It could be a stock photo. I don't know. But yeah, it's a great photo. This dude, he's just missing the number down the bottom. Right? So again, I can make that association, but he's staring straight at you in the eyes or straight at the camera in this case. Right? Again, that's where my mind went to there as well. She was too fancy. See, I didn't even memorize her name, and that word came into my mind. So it's amazing what can trigger a name. There you go. Give you a few more seconds of recall. There you go. And we finish. There you go. So those were the names. If you want to have a quick look. All right. So we got Jen with her arm taken off. Dan, I think I said Steely Dan for that one. Chris, Rob, Kenny, and so on. So I mean, they're in front of you, so I don't have to read the names. But I was more reading the associations as I was reading the names. So I remember saying this guy's not joshing around, right? He's dead serious. Yeah. So you can see that making associations will help you to recall these names. And the trick now is, how do I speed it up? Right. And you've had that test of going through the names very, very quickly. The cool thing is with Memory League is that you start off with like level 1, they give you 4 or 5 names, and level 2 and so on. The levels get harder and harder. So the more you actually play with remembering the names, the more you're going to improve your memory. So this is where the next section of this masterclass really begins, is improving memory is not necessarily about learning, right? Learning is a stressful activity, right? It's stressful. Why is it stressful? Because I'm just going to not share that screen. So hopefully you can see me now. The reason why it's stressful is that your brain is trying to decipher and learn and study and visualize and repeat and do all that sort of stuff, right? That's stressful. But if you're playing a game, right? If you're playing on Memory League, on remembering people's names, and you're getting a few wrong, you're getting a few right, and you're leveling up, guess what you're doing? You're increasing dopamine into your brain and the neurotransmitter dopamine. And what that means is that the brain activates the reward center, right? So you just want to go back and get to level 2 in names, or get to level 5 or 6 or whatever. So you keep playing that game. And as you keep playing, right, and using the memory techniques, guess what's happening? Your memory is improving. So that's what happened to me. That's how I got to the stage where I am now. I read a book on memory, of course, but the rest was all practice, right? All I did was play games and memory competitions. As nerdy as it sounds, it's just playing memory games. That's all it is. So that's what I was doing, playing memory games, having fun, making a ton of mistakes. And the beauty is that it's not mistakes in everyday life, right? We're fearful of making mistakes in everyday life. But when we're playing a game, right, that's the beauty of it. You just go in and make mistakes on purpose, right? Not expecting mistakes, but go in there, play around. And because you're playing around, you're associating, you're connecting, you're looking at strategies to win. And that's how memory works, by developing strategies. As you've leveled up, all you need to do now is, if you've leveled up in your memory, apply that to everyday life. Guess what's going to happen? Your memory is going to be way better, not just for names. You're going to be better at learning anything. As soon as you read something, you're going to see it visually. And if you see it visually, guess what's going to happen? You're going to retain and remember it, right? You're going to remember speeches. You're going to be able to pass exams. Like, I work with people now that are struggling with their exams, like professional exams. And I've helped people pass the world's hardest exams, right? How? Right? Training them, of course, it always has to get parallel, but using that skill to help them. Using things like mind mapping, speed reading. My goodness, you can use speed reading. You can learn speed reading by practicing names and faces, right? How? What's the difference? Well, it's exactly the same thing. You're just encoding words into images, right? The names are words as well. So I'm going to share another screen with you and show you exactly what this looks like. So I'll get back here. On my website, so tanselali.com, if you go to downloads, and there is, I've got random names here somewhere. There we go. Random names, right? I'll just make this a bit bigger. So this is really cool exercise to do, a really cool exercise to do, because you've got no faces now. It's just purely words. So your job now is to create images for these words, right? So I look at Dorian, for example, and I think of, because I'm a guitarist, I think of the Dorian scale, right? This dude, Dorian, whatever he looks like, he's playing guitar, he's playing the Dorian scale, right? Ronin, for me, 47 Ronin is a movie, right? From Keanu Reeves. So I remember that, right? Apollo, again, another movie, Apollo 13, right? Or I can go back to Rocky and do Apollo Creed. Nova is a radio station here, right? So I can go down one by one and just visualize images for each of these. You don't have to remember them. This is just an exercise, right? Just an exercise. So if you want, go to my website, download section, names, and then instead of trying to remember them, just go through and make associations. Like I think there's like 120 here, right? And then what you can do is you can do, you know what? I'm going to reload, bang, new names. Like how cool is that? Damon, Matt Damon, Mateo Charles is a friend of mine. Isabella, Selena, like all these names, and there's a few like Fatima, a few diverse names, Zale. I don't even know how to say that, right? So you can play around with some diverse names and see how that goes as well. And I love this exercise. And the reason why I love this exercise is there's no images, right? So now you're only having to use your creative abilities. If you want to remember abstract words, exact same thing here as well, right? You come across a word, say necessary, but necessary. How do you visualize necessary, right? There's no direct image for necessary, so we have to put it in context now. So this masterclass was necessary for me to record and create. Why? Because it's going to help people. See how I use the word necessary in context? So it's the same thing here as well, right? Leander, what can we do there? So I could say she liked lean deer, right? She liked to eat lean deer. I can do that. Or I can say she's a leader and just sort of remember that there's an N there. And when I say just remember, it's just a trigger, right? You will remember it, right? Zara, there's a famous restaurant named Zara here, and a few people I know named Zara. So again, people that you know, associate the names, connect onto connect onto context that you know of. And the more you play around, the better, right? So it all comes down to training. And the beauty of the training, as I mentioned, is that you can keep failing over and over and over again. No one will see you, no one will notice. And then when you're at an event or you're at a function or whatever it is, and then you're meeting people, right? You remember everyone's name. Like, how awesome is that? And then it's not so much about remembering the name, it's about how do you connect with that individual? How do you make them feel important? Because that's the whole idea behind remembering the name, right? It's to make the person feel important. If that wasn't the case, we'd all calling each other, mate and bro. Hey, bro, how's it going? Do you see what I mean? So knowing someone's name, very powerful, but it's a window to connection. It's not the connection. That's what I want you to get out of it, right? The connection is the actual person as a whole, right? Who are they? Why are they? What do they do? What are their passions? Things like that. Right? Often when you go to network meetings, some people, straight away they come to you and say, "What do you do?" And it's like, currently I'm making toast. What do you think I do? Obviously they're not trying to read your mind and stuff, but try and, at least say hi to someone or just get into a general conversation about just random stuff instead of going, "What do you do?" Again, we're looking at people connecting to people rather than let's get straight into work. Or if you're on LinkedIn, let's try and sell you stuff straight away, right? Again, remembering someone's name is only a window. And then once we found out the person, who they are, what they do, we can find out maybe they've got pets, right? I've got a couple of dogs, right? Anderson and Dr. Bennett, right? So then you can think, okay, Anderson, I can think of, Mr. Anderson from The Matrix, right? So you think, okay, they're two golden retrievers, by the way. So Mr. Anderson, he's on top of Anderson, flying away because the dog, Anderson's a pretty big dog. So Keanu Reeves riding on my dog, right? Anderson. And Dr. Bennett, well, I named him from my old family doctor when I was young. And it was very memorable because you'd be in the waiting room for 2.5 hours waiting just to see this doctor. And I remember every single minute of it. It was driving me crazy. But this dog is very, very smart. And I can picture him with, little glasses and reading a book. He's that type of dog, very smart. So again, associations, right? You haven't seen the pictures. You don't know what the dogs look like, but the context they're in and the associations I'm giving hopefully give you a better understanding of that. So I've gone through Memory League. right, with the names, how to make the associations and connect. I've gone through my website and how to train for visualization. I've also gone through how to train on obviously Memory League as well, right? Want to look at maybe speak to a few people now because I want to open the floor to what other challenges are there in memory. So I will stop my share. Is there anyone that wants to have a quick chat online about their memory and with names and so on, just so we can have a bit of discussion online? I think that would be pretty cool. We got a few people on here. You can just write it in the chat. All right. We got Russell. Do you want to chat? Shane, Patricia. It's cool if no one wants to chat. I'll just keep talking. All right, Shane, legend. I will unmute.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome, Shane.
So,
Thanks for joining us, buddy.
hey, I'm super jazzed to be here. Yeah. Let's just jump to it because I know that you do have a time limit. So what I find, and at least what I have found, and maybe it's an excuse, I don't know. When it comes to names, I feel like I'm a a golden retriever in a room with a whole bunch of people. Like I will just I'm all about like I'm just gonna jump in and I'm gonna and you're gonna tell me your name and I'm thinking like all kinds of stuff and my mind's going a mile a minute and then 10 seconds later I'm like, oh crap, what did he say his name was? And it's and I'm so caught up with just listening to everything else that I don't know, it just seems like it's crowding out. How do you quiet, maybe this is something you already don't have a struggle with, but quieting all the noise in your head so that you're actually able to be intentional about this. So when we're meeting, I may be thinking many things, but I need to be thinking about, okay, so Tansel, got it. What, rhymes with tinsel. He looks like a Christmas tree. Okay, so I don't know what have you done to like quiet your mind if we're in a busy room or whatnot? Because that's typically what it happens. Say we're at a networking meeting or something like that. I'm at a forum or I don't know, some kind of workshop, and there's all kinds of names I'm trying to get. So what works for you for that?
Yeah, funny you mentioned that. I just came from a networking meeting, so I had to rush to get here. And it's to be honest, the best method that I've found, right, is happens before you're even at the meeting, right? You have to mentally prepare and put yourself, make the intention that, okay, I'm off to a networking meeting or I'm off to meet people today. I have to switch myself on because when someone gives you their name, I have to be mindful of it. So you have to create a trigger, right? And you have to do that before. When you get to the meeting, then it's like, okay, you have to remind yourself that, okay, here's Shane. Okay, Shane. Usually what people do is exactly what you said, right? We get into conversation, we talk about a whole bunch of things, and the name is like just half a second said and it's gone, right? So what we can do, especially if you're really terrible with names, is you just sort of pause a moment and say, "Oh, Shane, okay, that's lovely, Shane. Um, Tell me a bit more, about what you're doing or whatever." So put yourself into a listening mode, right? I know it's sort of similar to what you're saying, but put yourself into a more listening mode. But this time, as that person's talking, make the association with the name, like Shane, right? If you're talking, I'm there going Shane, 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 Shane. Now, the more you practice, obviously it's going to probably take you anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds, right? To remember the name, to make the associations, right? What's going to happen is that after that 10 seconds, you're still able to pick up what was being said, right? After that. And if you haven't, just say, oh, can you please repeat that? I'd rather say, can you please repeat that, what they said, instead of saying, can you please repeat your name? Right? And eventually, what would happen is, like I said, the more you train on Memory League, the faster you will get. So, like for example, when I first learned these memory skills for names, it only took me a couple of weeks, and I was able to do it within a few seconds. Right? So it's not too difficult. The only challenging bit is what you put yourself under, the pressure. Like if you go in there and you're sweating, you've got drips of sweat coming down your forehead, and you're like, I have to remember this name, that name, that name. You're not going to remember it because there's so much stress, right? So you have to sort of release the stress, relax, right? Do not worry about making mistakes as well. That's the human thing. I mean, we do forget we're humans at the end of the day. The goal is to be mindful that you're going to go in there and meet people. And if they do give you a name, that you are going to attempt to make an association with it, right? That's the goal. As soon as you do that, and you keep practicing that, I can guarantee you, right? Because it's not just me, everyone else that I've worked with over the 20 years are able to now remember conversations and the person's name and so on. So hopefully that's given you something there, Shane. Does that sort of answer your question? Okay, okay, yes, good. I'm glad. Frank, I've got Frank asking a question. Do you want to come online, Frank, and have a chat, or you're happy with the chat? That's cool. I'll just read your question. So, how do you remember lots of names with a limited amount of time in remembering conversations, meeting new people? All right, Frank, you came in quite late, buddy. So, yeah, you missed out though the important bit of training for really fast. Um, Sorry, man. That's it's it's your loss. Only kidding. All right. So what we talked about earlier is I've got people to actually train for speed, right? So the best way to actually practice for speed is to practice for speed, right? How that works is get onto a memory league, for example, and set like timings for yourself, like every few seconds to try and remember the name, right? So practicing is one thing, right? Obviously, that's going to take a bit of time, not that long, but it's going to take time. What you can do in the immediate, right, with remembering lots of names is again, you make the associations, grab business cards if you can, write down the name if you can. Again, people don't think of these methods, but they are methods, right? Write down the name if you can, say the name, like say at least once, triggers, all that sort of stuff. The more you do that, the more you practice, the more mindful you become, right? That's the goal really, is becoming mindful. As soon as you're mindful, then you'll know when to use techniques. If you're not mindful and just in default mode, you're not going to remember anything. And that's what generally happens to me. I have to actually turn on, right, the switch before I get into any meeting and just be alert. And because I'm alert, now I'm suddenly able to remember a lot more. So speed, the only way to really combat speed is training. All right. Train, remember a lot of names, and then practice in real life as well. So they're the only things. Otherwise, if you've got, let's say, 10 people in front of you, right, and you have to try and make associations for each one, it's going to be very, very hard because they're going to say their name in like split seconds. Even the best memorizers in the world can't do that, right? So that's why it's good to practice a multitude of things so that even if you get half the names right, you can still ask around and do all that human stuff that we do. But generally, like I said, if you practice, if you train, and like I said, it doesn't take much to train. It's just using your imagination and creativity, right? Then you'll be able to tackle it as well. So, yeah, I think I was invited to a conference once and I had to memorize every person's name. There was like 60 people. And I thought, how the hell am I going to do this? Because, it takes quite a few seconds for each person and it might take, 20, 30 minutes for each person. But I was able to do it with a few seconds for each person because I was switched on already, right? I had the adrenaline pumping. So yeah, before you get into anywhere, have the adrenaline pumping, know that you're mindful, that you're going to connect with people, and that'll help you get over the line as well. So how's that, Frank? Did that answer your question? Yes, I got to thank you. Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, Russell, I'm just going to read your message out. Thankful of always. What about continuous order name recall? Do I play story line or like a poem play? Any other simple ideas? Wish you good business fortune. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, Russell. So, order name recall. So does that mean you're going to remember the names of people in order? Anything that you try and remember in order, you can link, like using a linking method. Or if you don't know what a memory palace is, you can use that. And a memory palace is essentially a technique where you choose a particular location and you have items on that location that you associate things to. So, for example, I'm in a training room at the moment. In front of me is a big whiteboard. Then on my right, I've got a television. In front of me, I've got a laptop. And on the side, I've got some chairs, right? So I've got four. Let's say I have to remember the order of four people, right? Jean is in front of me. So she's got her jeans around her neck and she's writing on the whiteboard, right? Next, I'm going to have, let's say, John. John is on television, right? He's sitting on the toilet on television, right? Because John in English terminology, whatever it is, can also mean toilet, right? So John sitting on the toilet on the television. Let's say I've got, I don't know, Russell, right? I'm going to say Russell. Russell Gilbert's a comedian here. So I'm watching Russell Gilbert videos on my laptop, right? It's not the greatest association, but for me, it's got meaning because I used to watch him when I was a lot younger, and it was quite funny. And on my left, I could have Sandra. And Sandra's sitting on the chair. She's got sand in her hair, and there's sand all over the place on the chair, right? So if I was to now recall all of those in order, I can say, okay, whiteboard, who was on the whiteboard, right? I'll let you guys recall. Whiteboard, someone's drawing on the whiteboard. On the television, who's on television, right? Who was I watching on the laptop? And also who was on my left with sand everywhere, right? So that's how you can remember the order of names. You don't really have to remember the order of names, to be honest, in everyday life. But yeah, if you so needed to, you can. All right. Any other final questions before we wrap up? All right. So as you know, this is a masterclass and it is going up on the internet as well. So you can watch it on my YouTube channel and share it with others as well. Because I think the more you share this sort of stuff, the more people learn. And also you can work with me one-on-one as well. I mean, at the moment, Patricia, I work with her. She's awesome, right? So the best thing to do is, like I said, train, practice, and just fail. Fail as much as you can because no one knows that you're failing, right? And you're just playing games. And the more you gamify this memory, the better. So I'll go one more final question. Okay. How often should we be practicing during the week? I always get this question, how often should we practice memory? As much as you can, right? As much as you can, because the more you practice, the more your brain rewires itself, right? You're rewiring, making those connections and getting stronger and stronger each time, right? Doesn't matter if it's 5 minutes a day. It doesn't matter if it's, 10 lots of 5 minutes per day, right? As long as you do it regularly, if you're doing it once a month, you're not going to see much growth. Come on. It's like saying, how often do I exercise? Yeah, you can exercise. If you do it once a month, you're not going to see much growth. If you consistently, regularly exercise, you're going to see. So it's the same thing there as well. But the good thing is you're not going to get physically tired. You might get mentally tired, but gee, if it's only 5 minutes, then it's much better than doing 1 hour of training. In fact, I never recommend 1 hour training for anyone, let alone this masterclass, right? So train as much as you can, play the games. And if you need any help, then I'm here. I do one-on-one coaching with people, right? Not just for names, but also passing professional exams, memorizing speeches, all of that. And the next masterclass I'll be running is how to pass exams. And that's a big one because I've got a lot of clients who are sitting professional exams. So we're going to go through that in quite detail. And masterclass details will be up on my website, tanselali.com. Visit that. If you've got any questions, right, comment down below. And I will see you in the next one. Cheers. Thank you, everyone.